There's a good fish. That fish was just there. There was no hook on him. That fish just hooked itself. Early budget. Look at that. I just love that where you can't make very much headway on them. That's a good fish. Yeah, I just love that. Just love how hard these fish fight. They don't give up. There. I'm gonna let you go. I'm not gonna hurt you. There you go. Nice fish. You know, a lot of you watching are like us. You love to fish. Well, imagine how fun it would be. There, beautiful walleye there. Imagine how fun it would be if a tackle company came to you and told you to design what you feel is the ultimate spinner. That's what happened with Northland Tackle. They approached us and they wanted us to basically build them better mousetraps. So we came up with a whole lineup, a whole series of signature series harnesses for walleye fishing that I basically got to design from the ground up. But this is the spinner that we're using today. But one thing that's a little bit unique about this spinner compared to a lot of the stuff that's on the market today is that it's got a big long shaft with a barb on it. That's just a piece of plastic on the hook, and it's got some paint right here, but basically just that big long shank, which we're using with a half crawler, works exceptionally well. Reason being is that on a lot of lakes, it's all about profile, it's all about length or size, and so that basically allows you to shorten up the package, pinch off a half crawler where you don't have very much worm behind the hook, and so you have a very high batting average. But the other thing that I like about that long shank hook is that you can put a tremendous amount of pressure on the fish. Let's face it, with a lot of live bait rigs, a lot of spinners, you almost have to net the fish because those hooks are going to pop off. Whereas if you take like a jig, for example, a lot of times you can lift a fish right in the boat. You can put a lot more pressure on the fish with that long shanked hook versus the traditional live bait hooks. And it just makes it a little bit more foolproof. Because for me, the more pressure I can put on the fish, the less that can go wrong. And basically what we're doing here is we're just threading the worm up. And just threading it on just like that. Just a small little piece of worm, half a crawler, and letting her buck. We were fishing today in Devil's Lake, North Dakota. And the pattern is basically running along the edges of the weed lines. It's pretty typical on a lot of these lakes, a lot of these prairie lakes especially. Now this part of the lake here, the weeds only get to be about 8 feet of water just because of the water clarity. See, the water's got a lot of color, a lot of stain, and so we're using a lot of bright colors, a lot of UV colors. And what's made today a little bit different than a lot of the days that I've been out here this past week is that it's very, very calm, high skies, high sun. And all week long, it's been blowing 30 to 40 miles an hour, and the water temperature dropped. It was really cool. Some mornings it was 50 degrees. So we had a massive front come through and just a lot of windy weather for about a week. And during that wind, I was catching fish out away from the weed line where they were just scattered all through here, but they weren't holding tight to the edge. I think what happens is sometimes you get that wind pounding in an area and those weeds are blowing around and moving around a lot, and that'll actually push the walleyes off of that weed break a little bit. But now with this high sky, bright sun, basically we're just running right along the edge. If we can see the weeds, we're running as tight as we can, a lot of times within a foot or so. Either you're catching a fish or you're fouled up with weeds, but we're just running right on that edge. And that's the program, especially on these nice days, post cold front days, is the closer you can get to that weed bed, the better. Oh, look at that, that fish clubbed it, wow. Slow us down here just a touch. See what we've got here. Thought that other rod was going too. Oh, it is, I got a double here. See if I can get both these fish here. Ah, hit and run. Almost had two. That's a little bit of excitement. What you got here? Show yourself. Boy, look at that. Walleye peel and drag. Gotta love that. Nice. Oh, I better net this fish. Yeah, I just had it. That other rod was banging pretty good. I thought I was gonna lose it. There we go. There we go, just a nice eater, nice eater. You saw how that fish duked it out. Those fish are just such high metabolism right now. They just fight and don't give up, and that's fun. Just a nice, look how thick that fish is, just a nice eater. We'll get that fish in the water there. There, see if I got a, oh yeah, I got a little bit of worm left on there. Perfect. Fix it a little bit here. All right, we're in the game. Whoa! When the rod tip's in the water, you know that's a good sign. That was cool. Try to ease her up here. The fish wants to stay below the boat. You know, if it was windy, you wouldn't be able to stay right along the edge like this, but you know, when it's windy, you don't have to. The fish scatter more. It's just on these nice flat days when they tuck right up sharp to that edge, and you gotta get right along that edge to get them. A lot of times you catch fish off one side of the boat and not the other side of the boat. That's how tight these fish can be. Come on, surrender. There we go. I'll pull her out of the net here. And what we're doing here, you know, we're going in and out. I mean, the front of the boat is going all over the place. And so what we're doing, what I like to do, is a lot of times people like to change their blades. And so quick change clevises are pretty popular with fishermen. And I like to use them too. But what we did when we designed this series of spinners is we used a metal quick change clevis. And what that enables you to do is fish at a lot slower speeds versus a plastic clevis. A plastic clevis just takes more speed to get going, but yeah, just a nice thick fish. See you later. Thanks for the fight. But that metal clevis enables you to fish fast, fish slow, and that's what I've always liked about metal clevises. But flip side is that you can't change blades easy, so this is a nice compromise, kind of the best of both worlds if you're a spinner fisherman. Oh, you're in this shallow water. I'm just running these bottom bouncers right below the boat at about a 45-degree angle, just to try to stay on this weed break. If you let out too much line, it's just that much harder to keep everything where it needs to be. But you know, it's surprising. A lot of times, you know, you don't have to worry about spooking fish. You can see the water's got some stain to it. There's a lot of cases where you can go right over the top of these fish in 5-6 feet of water even, and not worry about bumping them with the boat so much. A lot of times people think even that you won't mark fish in shallow water. Now, it's definitely harder to mark fish because it's harder to keep fish below the boat, but in this situation, stained water, weeds on these shallow prairie lakes like we have in the Dakotas, a lot of times if you can keep your gain high enough without cluttering up your screen, that's the tough part, you'll typically mark fish. And a lot of times, I think what happens is people look for too much. You're not going to get nice arcs in shallow water. And basically what you'll see is you'll see the bottom, then you'll just see a little bump that comes right off the bottom, almost looks like a mushroom or like a round box shape that just comes right up off the bottom, and it doesn't stay on the screen for very long. The reason being is that your cone angle is pretty small in this shallow water, but typically you start seeing those little bumps on the bottom, and those are fish. And where we've cracked a few of these fish here now, we were marking them on the electronics before we even went over the top of them. Good fish here. Good fish. Got right up on this inside corner in these weeds here. I kind of ran out of room. I just at a dead end here, kind of an inside corner. And the fish is laying right there. Cool. Just a nice thick stout fish. Whoa! There. Nice fish. Boy, I just love the girth on these fish. Boy, look at that. Isn't that just a fun fish? Yeah, you know what? I was going along this edge and I just ran out of room. I looked in front of me, there was weeds. I looked all around me. I just came right up on a nice inside corner, and that's right where that fish was laying. Cool. There. See you later. Oh, there we go. These fish actually will hurt your wrist. They hit so hard. You just have to brace it. I just love how they dig. They do not want to give up. Eating machines this time of the year. You know, it's just midsummer. These fish will spend a good part of the summer along these weeds, but my own personal opinion is, you know, the later it gets and the taller these weeds get to where you can see them on the surface, the easier they are to fish with a bottom bouncer and spinner, because it's just a matter of following them. You can see them. About the easiest boat control that there is, but nice fish. There. Basically, the general rule of thumb is with these bottom bouncers and spinners, when you're fishing them below the boat at a 45-degree angle, is 1 ounce for every 10 feet is a general rule of thumb. Now, where these weed lines are going to end, where these breaks are going to be, is going to vary from lake to lake. Even on Devil's Lake, you know, Devil's Lake is made up of several bays that are connected, and each bay, each portion of Devil's Lake will have its own personality. And so we're up on the northwest corner of the lake. Water's pretty stained up here. We're finding this weed line in 7, 8 feet of water, 6 feet of water if the bottom's hard. Get over to other areas of the lake, Main Bay, East Devil's Lake, it might be in 12 feet. Typically Devil's Lake's pretty stained, and so you know, you see the weeds quit right around that 12 to 15 feet at the deepest. And the other thing that I've often felt is on these hot, flat days like this, whenever you can get an inside corner that is on the, which would be on the north side, where basically when that sun's coming out of the south, you get that nice shadow, and a lot of times you can even see that shadow caused by that wall of weeds, and a lot of times that's where the fish will be laying, especially when it's really hot out. Oh, there we go. That fish bit like it was supposed to. Wow. Starting to get a few head shakes out of her. When that rod just stops, that's a beautiful thing. Wow, wow, wow. Fish has got some horsepower. Nice walleye. Oh yeah. Fish has got some shoulders. They are just scrappy. Come on. This isn't gonna hurt. There we go. All right, there. Oh yeah. There. Get her out of the net, show her off, but yeah. Just a respectable Devil's Lake walleye. There, he even waved us goodbye. I think part of what makes this spinner effective is the fact that less can go wrong. You know, instead of having this big of a target where the fish can hit and miss it, you've just got a smaller target. If they bite the back of that target, they get that hook, and we just put a little touch of color there, and I don't know if that helps or not, but it adds a little bit of color and splash to that. But sometimes smaller is better. Just makes you more efficient. You know, pulling bottom bouncers and spinners like this, I'm a big fan of using a bait casting rod and reel. Reason being is that a lot of times you get the right bait casting rod with a fast tip. A lot of times just setting the hook is just cocking the wrist, it's just sweeping the rod tip with the wrist, and so it doesn't take much, but a lot of times you're working these bottom bouncers, you're popping them through weeds, you're popping them through rock. Now, I'm using the Jason Mitchell Elite Series 7-foot bait casting rod. This rod was designed by me just to catch walleyes with bottom bouncers and spinners. I mean, that's the sole purpose of why we designed this rod, and it works extremely well. The reel I'm using is a Shields reel, available only at Shields, called the Covert. What I like about this reel is it's got a flipping switch. Push the button down, let go, and it stops. Flipping switch is nice for bottom bouncers and spinners because I'm trying to maintain that 45-degree angle below the boat, and I'm going up and down over shallower water, deeper water. I'm always making adjustments. And so between rolling the handle and using the flipping switch, I can pick up 2 feet of line at a time. I can drop back 5 feet. And that's the whole key is you're going up and down over structures, working those reels, so that way your bottom bouncer and spinners are where it needs to be. There's another good one. There we go. Starting to get these fish going. Wind's coming up a little bit. Boy, look at these fish, how they fight. Fish are just full of attitude. There we go. There. Yeah, there's another good eater. Finally got my worm. I think I caught 2 or 3 fish on that one crawler. The whole key with that long shank hook is threading the worm on as well. Don't just hook them through the nose like you would with a traditional spinner. Thread that worm on just like so. Slide up the hook, and then I like to just pinch off a little bit there. That way when they grab the back end of that hook, they got. From our base camp in Devil's Lake, North Dakota, we travel the whole Midwest looking for the best fishing bites. If you like real-time fish reports, find out what bodies of water that we're fishing just to find the general patterns and techniques that we're using, give us a like on Facebook and hit the road with Jason Mitchell Outdoors. Oh, whoa, that's a good one. That's a good one. At least he's fighting good. Staying down nice. Just an ambitious one. There. There we go. Well, that fish, you'd think, boy, I got a pike on the way they fight. Just another weed walleye in about 7 feet of water. They do fight, boy. You know, we're using crawlers today. What I always tell people when it comes to crawlers, when it comes to soft plastics, is it's not like one's better than another, like you're comparing them, but they both complement each other. But I guarantee you that there are some days where one is the ticket. That's something to keep in mind, is there are days where it don't matter, and there are days where it does. I don't know how many fish we've caught along here today, but quite a few. I think these weeds, these type of locations, they'll hold fish in a place like Devil's Lake most of the summer. You know, we used to have so much flooded timber, and that was kind of the story on Devil's Lake, is fish the flooded timber. Ice has knocked a lot of those trees down, and so now, oh yeah, there's a nice walleye. So now we're fishing more and more weeds all the time. So while they're stabilized and stayed high, it seems like this aquatic vegetation's taken over. So we've got a lot better weeds and a lot more weeds, a lot less flooded timber, but really the tactics are very similar. A lot of shallow water and a lot of aggressive fish. Oh yeah, that fish is just mad at us. Here, get him on a net there. Get that, boy, getting that hard part of the beak. But tell you what, this is something though that anybody can do. That's what I want to stress, is that, you know, you get those flat, calm days, those sunny days, or you think, you know, it'd be a tough day of walleye fishing, if you're on a place like Devil's Lake, is don't worry about a lot of the myths that you hear about walleye fishing as far as high skies, no wind, no walleyes. On so many bodies of water, that just isn't true. And Devil's Lake, North Dakota is one of those places. So when you encounter those types of situations, look for those weed lines, run these bottom bouncers and spinners right along the edge. The sunnier and brighter it is, get closer to that edge, close as you can, and you're gonna catch fish. And this is the proof right here.
Jason Mitchell Outdoors has been brought to you by Shields, North Dakota Tourism, Yarcraft Boats, Yamaha, Onyx, Sonar Phone, Salmo, Northland Fishing Tackle, and Jason Mitchell Elite Series Rods.
To find out more information on Jason Mitchell Outdoors, Make their official webpage one of your favorite pages. Find out upcoming show schedules and air times, along with past shows, article and product reviews at jasonmitchelloutdoors.com. Great information on the outdoors is just one click away.